Thank you so much. I was actually walking back to back of the room because I thought I was speaking after the break. So mentally coming back to speaking. All right. Good evening, all you wonderful ladies, and the few, not so few, very brave and very awesome men for joining us tonight. First of all, I'd like to thank Tracy for asking me to speak, and to my colleague Moniza for introducing me to Tracy. It is an honor to be speaking alongside so many distinguished women. I am humbled. But I have to say this about Tracy. When I first met her, first of all, I thought she was 27 years old. Well, she corrected me later. She said I'm 28. But seriously, I don't think I've actually met a woman that is as busy as Tracy is and accomplishes as much as she does every single day. When Tracy and I first discussed my speaking at the event, my first reaction was, OMG, I actually don't have such a super fascinating story to tell like Vivian, and I'm sure a whole lot of the other speakers tonight. So I panicked a little bit. I don't really have a problem talking. My husband, who's sitting here, Mike, will tell you that I actually talk a lot, so that's not the problem. But I seldom talk about my life. So being asked to share here was a little different, shall we say. But what I will say tonight, I will say from my heart. That much I can promise you. I want to start the talk by saying that I'm not a feminist, only because I don't really understand what that means. It actually seems to be different and mean different things to different people depending on who you talk to. So I actually personally like to stay away from these labels. In fact, what I would really want for us collectively is to get to a point where talking about diversity and equality is not even required anymore. That is my dream. As a society, when we get to that point where we celebrate everyone, man or woman, without even having to talk about equality or gender diversity, I say we achieved something at that point. So you'll see that that's kind of the common thread throughout my talk. I was one of the most unlikely people to immigrate anywhere, not just to Canada. I was more than content in my life in Mumbai, in India, where my career in corporate law had just gotten off to a good start. And I had a comfortable life with my friends and my family surrounding me. However, as destiny, and as some of my own surprising relationship choices would have it, I immigrated to Canada in March of 1999, so that's almost 20 years ago. And I still remember the first few days. There was snow on the ground, and for someone that grew up in, these shoes are gonna be the end of my life, or the stage. Back to my thought. So for someone that grew up in the warm city of Mumbai, my almost first experience with snow, I was ecstatic. And now my friends, and there's many of them here, they know how I feel about that S word. Not a fan. I immediately fell in love though with the warmth of the people of Canada and the landscape, especially the Rocky Mountains. I was fortunate enough to come from a fairly progressive environment in Mumbai, where gender equality was the norm. It wasn't an exception. And I fully realized how fortunate I am because it is not the norm in the rest of the country. So I didn't personally have any major struggles with the language or with any preconceived notions about what women can and cannot do. However, coming from a very big city with millions of people, I really did miss the hustle and bustle of Mumbai. I'd never been one to really sit around much, so then I took to the job market and I started investigating my career options. That's where I faced my first real challenge as an immigrant. Well, second, if you consider the extreme change in weather conditions as the first. I had a university degree in commerce from Mumbai, along with a postgraduate professional certification in corporate law. My research here revealed very quickly that my corporate law professional designation did not have a direct translation, and therefore it had no direct benefits to my career here in Canada. So this put me in a dilemma. Did I really want to go back to school for 4 years to get another law degree? No, not really. Okay, I was lazy. So I spent many hours researching the job market for fields that offered not just universality, but also potential growth for myself. My most frequent thought was, what if I didn't settle down in Canada? What if I moved somewhere else? I don't want to do this all over again. Well, 19 years later, I'm still in Edmonton, leave alone any other country. But back then in 1999, I went back to the drawing board in an attempt to re-identify my skill sets, to find a new skill match in a new field for myself. So this is how I landed on the profession of information technology. Mind you, since then I've also started a part-time business of my own in interior design. It's called Design and Consulting, but that's me following my passion and my hobby in my spare time. I don't have a lot of that, but I try. I'm going to say hello to some more of my CGI folks that walked in. After I got a 2-year part-time IT program at NAIT, I tried to keep growing my skills both at school and at work, trying many different areas in IT. The one thing I did subconsciously actually was I kept growing my network of friends and professionals in Edmonton, learning constantly and getting inspired by all the interesting people that I have got to know over the years. What I didn't realize was also happening subconsciously was that Edmonton very quickly started to feel like home. And a lot of those people are in fact here in the room tonight. In 2003, I had my daughter, Maya, and becoming a mother was an event that almost changed my personal life. Definitely my personal life, but also my professional life. As someone that had been raised by a stay-home mother, I debated on going back to work. And as an immigrant, without having my immediate family around me to assist and help with long-term childcare, I considered leaving my job. Close friends offered me valuable advice at the time to reconsider. And it's actually because of them that instead of quitting, I went back to my then employer and I explained my dilemma to them. They were able to recognize the value of my contributions to them thus far, and they offered that I could work from home for a couple of years, as long as I, of course, managed and arranged for childcare. This was the best case scenario. This was a true win-win, and it could only happen because I'd chosen the field of IT, information technology, where technology enables remote work in some cases. I'm talking about this with a very specific objective in mind, because I realized that this challenge that I faced is a very common one with immigrant women, regardless of where you've come from. Not having your immediate family around you support you with childcare, long-term childcare, could present a dilemma not just of your value system, but also financially it may not even make sense to go back to work and pay very high childcare costs. Now, while those situations and therefore those decisions are very deeply personal to each family, I want to emphasize to women that even if you choose to stay at home for a few years, they're not necessarily a detriment to your career. They don't have to be. When you're ready to go back to work, have the confidence to step it up. Others will see that confidence and they'll believe in you. Have a plan ready so you know what you're going back to. At times, men have to make decisions too. A man who is a father and a husband may have to give up a dream job because it requires too much travel. I guess what I'm trying to say is we all have choices to make, and when we make them, the best thing I think we could do is to say, this is what it is for now, and when I'm ready to go back to work, I'll bring the best I have to the workplace. I speak very honestly when I say that good work ethics, commitment, and a thinking brain are not easy to be ignored. As a general philosophy in life, I guess I really believe that it's important to understand in any situation what you can control and what you cannot, and then sensible to accept what you can't control and focus all your energies in changing what you can. But from the perspective of our professional lives, because that's what Tracy wants me to focus on, I'd like to share a few tips based on what has helped me in my professional career. Believe in yourself first and don't sell yourself short. People will naturally follow suit. Remember that no one is obligated to believe in someone that does not have the highest level of confidence in themselves. A study conducted showed that if you put 10 men in the room and all 10 of them thought they knew the answer. They weren't really sure, but they thought they knew the answer. 7 out of the 10 would throw out a response, a guess. The same study conducted with 10 women in the room, 7 out of the 10 did not volunteer a response in fear that they could be wrong. Now, I'm not saying that men BS more than women. Neither am I saying that we should BS as women, but I think you get my drift here. My strongest advice: the best identity you can create for yourself at the workplace is that of a professional or a strong worker, not as a woman, not as an ethnic individual, just a strong professional, just an employee, just an entrepreneur. Surround yourself with people from all walks of life, all religions, all races, people that motivate you just by being who they are. And I know it sounds counterproductive to say that when you're new to Canada and looking for information and help yourself, that one of the best things you could do is to help others, like Vivian said, by volunteering. I think it's the best thing you could do because it achieves a couple of things. It helps you to appreciate the goodness of Canada. It shows skills and drive on your personal resume. And finally, it helps you settle into the society very quickly. Now, moving on to women and IT. I actually wouldn't say that IT or information technology is a male-dominated field. It is true that there are more men than women, and this number gets more unequal in more senior or leadership roles. Now, on the face of it, there's nothing wrong if there's more men or more women in any industry. It could just be a matter of fact, not one of issue, not one of rights. Maybe there's not a problem to be resolved. However, can more be done to increase awareness of possibilities of IT at the academic level for younger women? Absolutely. Can more be done to help women wanting to go back to work after staying home to raise children? Absolutely. So I did a quick Google search on the top 5 skills required for job seekers in the IT profession. Now, I think these are very highly simplified, and so pardon me, I don't mean to sound flippant here, but they're a good starting point. Good communication skills, good organization skills, problem solving, analytical, and the ability to follow a plan. Now, most of, if not all these skills are required just to deal with our husbands and our kids. I'm joking. Thought people would laugh. But if any of you women out there routinely plan your family's calendars, you know you can't do it without good communication, organization, and planning skills. If you're in charge of your family finances, it shows that you are good at analytical skills. Just saying that I personally see a direct link between our life skills and those required in IT. I want to spend a few minutes talking about where I do personally believe that women can have a greater presence. And that is in leadership roles in general, but specifically in technical industries like IT. One of the most interesting perceptions I've heard of is that women leaders are good leaders because of their soft skills, like empathy, kindness, etc. Now, while I've heard of this as a positive trait, I've also heard this in context where it is mentioned that, or it is thought that a soft leader may not be able to deliver tough messages or provide difficult feedback. Even more interesting is that I've often heard this from women, not from men. Part of this comes, I think, from an innate fear of being labeled that not so nice word that is used to describe tough female bosses. There's children in the room, so I can't say it. This is an area I've actually done tons of research and reading, and my personal findings actually suggest that women make excellent leaders. Note that I'm not saying managers. We make excellent leaders. The Harvard article on what makes a leader, released back in 2004, says, I quote, "Truly effective leaders are distinguished by a high degree of emotional intelligence, which includes self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skill." Now, I dare any lady in the audience to not believe that they possess all of these traits. If nothing, we use them in everyday roles we play, like mothers and wives and daughters and sisters and friends. Seriously, what good mother does not possess the quality of being able to motivate their children? What good friend doesn't have the quality of empathy and social skill? And what good wife doesn't have the ability to be self-aware so you can make your marriage better? I think it's about that confidence that I talked about earlier and bringing all those traits to the workplace. The qualities may sound soft and unbusinesslike, but Daniel Goleman, who is the father of emotional intelligence, Daniel Goleman found direct ties between emotional IQ and very, very measurable business results. Pushing this thought even further, that women make excellent leaders in technical industries like IT. The other interesting observation that the Harvard article had was that emotional IQ played an increasingly important role at the highest levels of the company, where differences in technical skills are of negligible importance. In other words, the higher the rank of a person considered to be a star performer, the more emotional IQ capabilities showed up as the reason for them to be that star performer. To me, again, it's a natural reason for women to strive for leadership roles, even in technical fields like IT. Finally, why IT? I'm actually going to say, why not IT for immigrant women? My first argument is English does not have to be your first language. IT has to be your first language. It has multiple offerings that the field has to offer the types of skills you believe you have, and depending on the level of challenge you want in your life. Finally, let me go from IT to the IT organization that I work for, CGI, who's our presenting sponsor. Within our company, we actually joke that CGI is probably Edmonton's best kept IT secret, because not a lot of people know the presence we have in the IT market today. So I'll talk a little bit about what we do in general and our presence in the city. And it's not for bragging rights as much as it is to to help you understand the significance of some of the percentages I'm going to share with you. CGI is the 5th largest IT services company in the world today. Its presence is global and it's across continents. Globally, we employ tens of thousands of people. Closer to home, the Edmonton office has just over 500 employees, and that's where the relevance to this event comes in. I had already committed to Tracy that I would be willing to speak about this at this event about women in IT. That said, I had hoped that CGI would pick up a table or two. But when my colleague Karen and I spoke to the CGI executive, the outcome of that discussion was, why aren't we sponsoring this event? Now, why was this so important to CGI? Why as a business did CGI think that they need to stand behind this cause? To put that into perspective for you, approximately 35% of the Edmonton workforce, and I'll remind you we're just over 500 now, are female. Approximately 35 to 40% of the workforce are folks that have moved to Canada from Europe, Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. Again, that says something to my point earlier, that IT is the most universal language in the world today. When you hear these numbers, it then stands to reason why this event would be important to CGI. But it isn't just because our local office employs women or people that have moved from other countries to Canada. The philosophy of supporting local communities is actually baked right into our constitution. CGI, we have a dream at CGI to create an environment in which we enjoy working together and as owners contribute to building a company that we can be proud of. In support of this dream, we also have some core values. In context of tonight, I'll mention 2 out of those 6 core values: the respect and corporate social responsibility. To me, what is happening today is an example of CGI's keen need to have a strong global corporate social responsibility program. I think I've said a lot, and now I'm wondering what's left for my boss, Greg, to say. Sorry, Greg. Anyway, once again, I really do want to thank Grow for the opportunity, for inviting me here, and I wish you continued success. I hope I didn't bore you all too bad, and that I was able to share one small thing for at least one person here to take away. That said, I'd like to invite Greg Thorsley, Vice President CGI, to say a few words, introduce the next speaker. I'll get cues from you. Anyway, have a wonderful rest of the evening, and thank you very, very much.